I can't believe we're doing this. We are the hosts of the GateCrashers podcast.
Yes, because we believe in gate crashing. We're going to talk all things industry, disrupting the industry,
Doing your own work,
getting through the gatekeepers, and make your own.
Follow us for all things film, building your own work from the ground up, building your own series, and maybe even some funny Reddit stories. Who knows?
Don't wait on someone to give you permission to do your art. Just do it.
Just do it. Don't sue us, Nike.
Let it play out. So in this episode of GateCrashers, we sit down with Courtney Romano of Queensbird Films, a filmmaker who insists the old career path is dead and walked into the void anyway. We talk about the brutal math of indie filmmaking, like when your AD rate barely covers childcare, or being a PA and breastfeeding in the corner, and how women build creative careers in an industry that wasn't built for them, and how Courtney's Substack-driven community is becoming its own engine of support and opportunity. Tune in for the NonDe film movement. Courtney Romano is a filmmaker, writer, and founder of Queensbird Films, an independent production company built on experimentation, intuition, and the belief that the old path is dead. Her work bridges narrative, documentary, and hybrid forms, allowing room for imperfection, curiosity, and risk. Through her projects, she pushes against industry norms and centers marginalized voices by refusing to wait for permission. Outside of filmmaking, Courtney writes Let's Go Again on Substack, where she shares process, philosophy, and lessons mined from the creative trenches. Over time, she's cultivated a vibrant community of artists, dreamers, and makers who engage in open conversations about craft, grit, and the economics of making art. Her writing and community work are as much a part of her creative practice as her films, a space for collective learning, inspiration, and radical possibility. Courtney's work is not about waiting. It's about showing up, breaking rules, and building something that didn't exist before. Kat lost her voice, but we have Courtney here today from Queensbird Films. You have your amazing Substack, Let's Go Again. You don't need an intro, though. I think you're just bringing some incredible thoughts into the space as we're in this very strange time of like the studio system and everything we kind of knew as Hollywood, as musical theater, because you've been in the musical theater space, is all crumbling. But we also have this marriage with like maybe this is a really cool time to be an indie artist. And I've been so fascinated by your ideas that you've brought up, our conversations that we've had on Zoom. And I know you want to come into directing. That's something you've talked about for a long time. So maybe walk us through what has brought you to where Courtney is today, the gate crashing Courtney.
Yeah, the gate crash. I mean, a whole series of failures and fumbles and redirections, like anyone else, you know. But the short version of it is I spent 10 years working in New York theater, doing off Broadway, doing commercials, doing stuff like that. Really desperately wanting to be on Broadway was really my goal. Went to college for theater and dance. I made Backstage, the publication, my entire personality. I'm semi-ancient. Like when I was in college, I got the Backstage newspaper delivered to my college mailbox. And so I don't think people understand how that worked. It was a newspaper. It was a physical thing. I'd go through at like 19 years old and I'd like circle and highlight like, oh, I could do this job. I could try this. And I would I went to college and I like did shows in college, but I also was just desperate and hungry to like get out and do things and be in New York City. Like I had always wanted to be in New York City since I was like in 7th grade. Before I'd even been to New York, I was like, New York is my destiny. And it is, and it has been. So I worked there for 10 years. I mean, I lived there for 17 years. For about 10 of those years, I did regional theater, I did musicals, I did plays, I did off-Broadway, I did commercials, and and did all the other things in between to survive and pay the rent. I got married. We had 2 kids in New York. My babies are, they were born in Manhattan like the divas they always deserve to be, my son and my daughter. And then, around that 10-year mark of kind of hustling and like desperately wanting to be on Broadway, I was doing an off-Broadway show and I was walking across Street and 7th Avenue or Broadway. It was Broadway, yeah. And I was walking to the show and it was, trying to get to my 7:30, call time. And I was like, okay, so the difference between my theater down here, I'm doing an off-Broadway show, and the marquee right here that I'm desperately wanting to be a part of. Like, who knows what it was at the time? It was probably like Newsies or Addams Family. It's probably, like ancient, right, stuff. Or like the 2006 revival of A Chorus Line. Oh my God. So
Hey, Every Little Step is still my favorite documentary.
hell yeah. Hell yeah. Anyway, I'm looking at these marquees thinking like, what is the difference, Court? Like, what's the difference? Your physical reality. This is me crossing the street, like weaving in and out of taxi cabs, right? Living my best life, but being like, what are you trying to reach? Because if you did get to Broadway, you would literally just like get to the stage door faster. Like the other stage door is just like down the street on 10th Avenue instead of 8th Avenue on 42nd Street. You're coming to, like, I was trying to think of it, not even trying. It just kind of hit me one day of like, does it matter? Like, does it matter? If I'm doing this right now and I'm enjoying it, then I should just keep doing that. And that was kind of like the doorway for me to start like rearranging my brain a little bit. Because before then, I had been like, okay, I get an agent, which I had, and I book shows, which I did, and I do this and I do that, and I understudy and I get the lead, and it's like, it's a ladder, and I climb the little ladder. And like, I was doing all the right things. I was smiling. I was singing the right notes. Like, I could belt the D. Like, you know what I mean? These very technical, tiny things. And it never sat right with me. And I always kind of like internalized that as like, well, Courtney, you're not good enough. Or like, you don't have it. You don't have the stuff. Or like, you didn't go to theater school when you were 8. You didn't have a voice teacher when you were 4. So like, you're already missing out. Like, your parents are public school teachers, so you don't have access to like Broadway mentors or film mentors. So like, you just like don't get it. I would internalize this stuff, right? And there came a point when I was crossing, 42nd Street or, Broadway, that I was just like, I think this is wrong. Like, I think what I'm pursuing right now is an idea, is a fantasy that is sold to me and it doesn't quite exist. And I need to figure out what I want because I love doing plays. I was doing a new show at the time. I was a lead in the new show. It was terrible. It was not good. It was very bad, but it was so fun.
Yeah.
It was like, it was a puzzle. It didn't make sense. And we were trying to make it make sense. And that like kind of grappling was so much more satisfying to me than like, no shade, but doing Course Line or 42nd Street. And that was fun too in its own thing. But I just grown to a point where I was like, I'm not pulled by this, but I'm driving towards it, if that makes sense. Like, I'm like let me get to Broadway, but I'm not compelled on the inside to do that. So I think that was the moment that I started expanding my vision of what my life could be. And then, of course, not of course, but for me, it's kind of course, I started writing because I'd always been a writer my entire life. I've always written. I tried to go to school for theater and English, and then the head of my dance department was like, no, you want to be on Broadway, do dance. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll do dance. And I wanted to minor in dance, and I've been a dancer my entire life. So like, it was not like, I was like, yeah, of course, let me walk through that door. But I say that to just say like, writing has always been like, I've done it since I was a kid, like would write books with my mom and I'd dictate the stories to her. So it was a natural way for me to express myself. And I kind of just got to that point where I was like, let me just do the thing that I feel like doing instead of the thing that I think I'm supposed to. And long story short, because I'm getting bored with myself now, but eventually like what happened was I started writing and I didn't stop. And that evolved, right? I wrote a book, I self-published a book, which was kind of like my own little manifesto of like where I was in my life at that time. And then the book got optioned by a small production company out of LA to become a pilot. So I wrote the pilot. That went nowhere, but it got me to self-educate myself on writing pilots and writing screenplays.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, dang, I like this. This is fun. Like, this is bringing my acting sensibility, my writing sensibility. And I have this kind of like director brain in my head of like, well, this is how I could envision it. Like, I could see it. And then that led me to writing a whole bunch of stuff that never got produced and like would get kind of like, okay, maybe we'll take a look at this, we'll take a look at that, and like nothing and nothing and nothing and nothing. Meanwhile, I'm like having babies. Like, I was like, it wasn't like I could like go in and like move to LA. And I mean, yeah, I could have done anything, I suppose, but like, I didn't want to, right? I had a kind of split thing. And then so I realized like after I had my daughter, she was 1 year old, I was still breastfeeding at the time. And I was like, I can't be a PA. Like, I can't even, like, I can't, like, have my boobs sucked on set from the pump, like, sitting in a corner next to, like, the trash can and Crafty. Like, that's not the vision. And,
Yeah.
like, not like I couldn't do that. Like, of course I could do that, but, like, I couldn't. Like, I couldn't afford it. I couldn't afford it because I couldn't afford the childcare to offset, whatever. So all of this to say, it became very, very clear to me very, very fast that like I had to direct my stuff if I wanted it produced. It was the only way I was going to get my stuff produced. So I was like, all right, let me direct something. And so literally from 6 weeks from the time that I said to my husband, I think I just need to direct something and like get it going because no one's going to be like, hey, there's that 35-year-old breastfeeding mom. Let's give her a TV show. Let's give her a feature. Come on. Like, no one knows who I am. Like, so from 6 weeks of deciding I'm going to do this, we filmed, we did a 12-hour day. We shot a 14-minute short film in a 12-hour day. I learned a lot. Wow. And then the next year.
Cat's still stuck on one day.
Yeah. Yeah, because I didn't have money. Because I had no money. I pulled everything that I could scrounge out of our savings. Like, sorry to my diva kids, but like you're gonna figure that out for yourself. But yeah, so I pulled everything out of, well, not everything, but I pulled what my husband and I thought we could like take out of savings. And, and another thing that I should say is like savings, I actually even feel like is a ridiculous thing to talk. Like, who has savings,
Especially in New York.
Especially in New York. But I should say, like, a lot of material things, and this is, like, I really care about this, so that's why I'm bringing it up. Like, a lot of material things, like, work together to create an artist's life. We had a great landlord. We lived in that apartment that we left last year for 12 years. He was very good to us. He didn't raise the rent. We were in a 1-bedroom, so my husband and I moved in, just the two of us, and then we left. There were the 4 of us. So you can imagine how it ended up. But we were in a 1-bedroom. He was so good to us. We never left because we knew like it was always going to be tough to find someone like him. My husband and I we never spend above our, we spend above our means when it comes to healthcare all the time. But for anything that we can choose, right? Like we try to save and all of that. So I'm saying that just to say that, like, we pulled money out of savings to do this, a very small amount of money to do this 1-day shoot, right? But like we had been saving that money for like maybe 10 years, right? So I'm just saying that to say, to kind of reflect on that it's not always just like, just pull money out of savings and make like, I completely understand that is not actually a reasonable expectation for a lot of people. And I would say even where I am now in my life, now that I have 2 kids and we moved and we have different kind of financial responsibilities and priorities, like I couldn't do that now. I couldn't use my own money now. So I say that to kind of say that, like, when I tell you that how did I get here through like a course of like failures and fumbles and like weird serendipitous, like lucky strikes, like that's what I'm talking about. Just like things kind of adding up to the moment and me saying, okay, this is the moment, gotta go, like gotta do it. And then hoping that I land on my feet. I hope that's an answer.
And I'm also glad you brought that up because I think, whether you're a filmmaker or you're an actor or you're like, you have to invest in your art and your craft sometimes. And sometimes you do have to figure out how to make that sacrifice. And you could have crowdfunded, but like anyone who's ever crowdfunded knows that that's a full-time job. So if the move was like, let me get this made to prove what I can do and to not wait on anything else or not dump my energy into anything else. Cause I'm sure as a mom, like energy is so precious and like how much of it you have. Like sometimes that's what you have to do. Or you choose your heart or you choose your sacrifice you're going to make the thing that you want to do. Like some people I know it's crowdfunding because as a first time director, you're not going to get grants or you're not going to have access to government funding. So if you crowdfund, like you might spend weeks, months raising the money you need to do the thing. But what do you feel like? What was your time from deciding I'm going to make this to deciding how long, how much money, all of that? What was your turnaround time? I'm just curious.
Well, it was 6 weeks from I should film something to filming it.
Wow.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was, and it was also right before COVID. So like we got in at the end of February 2020.
Yep.
So like, this is what I'm saying. It's like lucky duck over here, right? That I got to get that in, because otherwise it would have been at least another year, right?
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah.
So basically I had already written some stuff. I had written a pilot called Misfit, which I still think is a great title because it's about
that.
the fitness industry. Anyway, I'm so good at titles, which is a line I brought into my series that I did in 2023. And I realized that there were some characters in there. I was like, let me do a character study. Let me like make this the easiest thing I can shoot. I'm going to make it a mockumentary, so we don't have to be precious about anything. It's easy for me to learn. And a lot of it can be locked off, just a talking head. And it's a short film, so we're not going to get too bored of it. I mean, I have notes for myself now, but I was like, I'm either doing locked off or handheld, and that's it. And I'm not doing exteriors. I'm not getting crazy. I have one location. I have 12 hours of being in this space, which actually means like shooting for maybe 9 to 10 hours, right? Because we got to load in, load out. And so anyway, I had the thought that I was going to my first thought was like, oh, I'll just film it on my iPhone and I'll rent a studio at Ripley Greer and like I'll just like bring friends in. And I told my friend Allie, who is a stylist and she's costume designed everything for me, and she works in production all the time. She's like, babe, we're gonna get you a gaffer, we're gonna get you sound, and we're gonna get you deep, and I'm gonna do your costuming. And I was like, okay, let's do that. So again, like community serendipity, she was just like, you're going to do it this way. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it that way. All right. I didn't know. That's cute. So honestly, the minute she put that in my head, I was like, all right, we've changed the mandate here. And she brought on an incredible producer, Mackenzie Powers, who they had worked together in production. Mackenzie and her husband do a bunch of film. Like she's just an incredible human being, and she guided me through it. And those two women had all this experience that they said, let us share with you what we know, because we know a lot of information about running a set, and we're going to help you, and we're going to help you figure out what you're doing. Which, like, if not for them, like I don't know if I've articulated this, and now it makes me feel like I really should articulate this. If not for those two women who pulled me aside and were like, we're going to help you with the institutional knowledge you don't have so you can have this creative moment and you can learn and bring your vision into, the world, I probably wouldn't have made my series. I probably wouldn't be so confident now of what I can do. They were the first people to bet on me in a way that was like materially significant,
Yeah.
and those connections are, I know we want to maybe talk about the NonDe film movement right now, but like that community is everything. I mean, and not in a fluffy, sweet way. Like, I mean, actually tactically everything, because they gave me the tools that I didn't even know about. I could have found this out. I could have done my research, and I did do a lot of research. It's not like I'm always self-educating, but they moved it along faster. And it was, when I say I went from idea to shooting in 6 weeks, like, wouldn't have happened without the two of them.
Wow. That also just, I love that you articulated that. And I think that speaks to, like, we talk a lot about AI and how AI is taking over and this and that, but that community piece is so important. And that I'm trying to figure out how to articulate this, that like ideation of we all have this like superpower and this thing that we can give to one another. And they saw like what you were trying to see in your vision, and they were able to like tactically bring that to you in a way now that like you've articulated Kinsley. Like, did this translate into Kinsley when you did your web series for Kinsley Versus?
Oh, totally. I mean, yeah. I mean, because what I did was I went from a 14-minute short film to a 7-episode web series that was like, almost the length of a feature. It was 45, 49 minutes, something like that, over
Yeah.
7 episodes. So first of all, I brought Allie with me because I was like, I'll never dress anyone without you. And she's my best friend too. Like she's, like and she helped produce. And Mackenzie, I had wanted her to produce on Kinsley Versus, but she had other stuff going on. She moved. There's a lot going on, so she couldn't. But she helped get the budget started for that. She helped me build the budget for it. So again, even though she wasn't directly involved, like past that, like again, you know how much time it takes to build a budget. You know how much thought and detail it takes to build a budget, and she gave me that. So yeah, and then a lot of and I'm kind of the mind, I don't know how you guys feel, but I like the idea of like a film repertory company. Like I like the idea of like getting in with your crew, and I mean that loosely, like your crew, your actual crew, but also your collaborate.
People.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being like, all right, what can we do here? Like, how can we push it? And like creating that shorthand with each other, not to the exclusion of other people, but honestly to the safety of me. Like, I like to feel creatively safe. Like, I like to feel like if I bring something up, no one's going to be like, you dumbass, like,
yeah. And that's important. Or like the mansplaining or the talking down, or just like sometimes your idea's not for other people. They're just not going to understand. They just don't get it.
And I'm a sensitive little baby bird. Like, I try not to be. I really try to, like, check myself. Like, Courtney, you're taking it too personally. Or, Court, like, let it roll off your back. But when I'm in, I mean, like, I had some emotional experiences on set with Kinsley Versus because it was shot in my apartment. And so I was like, God, is she me? Am I her? Like, no, like, and she wasn't, and she's not, but there were some really emotional things that were coming up in that script that were very true to me, that I didn't even understand how true they were to me until I saw it on the monitor, and I was like,
just a preface for those who are listening who maybe haven't seen Kinsley Versus, can you give us just the quick log line kind of pitch?
It's about a writer who can't write, and her anxious thoughts become actual living, breathing people. So she's in the space with her thoughts as people. Yeah. It's very claustrophobic. Yeah. So I'm kind of like in this very meta way watching my process unfold. And I'm at this one point, I'm looking at the monitor, and we were shooting, actually, it's a very opening image, and we were shooting it, and I start sobbing, and I'm just crying. And I'm like, I'm fine, everybody. But like, yeah, like I was just like, oh, and it was literally just a Zoom. Like nothing was happening. It was just a Zoom. It was a woman. It's a woman sitting. It's Lauren Karaman, the most wonderful actor of all time, sitting at my kitchen table, staring at her computer with all these voices going around her. That's the opening shot. And we're zooming slow on her. And I'm watching this happen in my own kitchen, thinking, Courtney, you wrote this. I'm looking at the contraptions. I'm looking at at my house. I kicked my husband and my daughter out. They were at a hotel down the block, and like it's literally just my 1-bedroom apartment, 600 square feet of equipment and 25 people. Like what? So it was just this, like, it was art imitating life, imitating art, imitating life. And so anyway, but I like being in that space. I like getting sensitive. I like understanding art and life through my emotions, not to the detriment of other people. Like I would never take it out on anyone else, right? Or like I would never rip into anyone else. But I like that part of me, creatively. I think there's like some intuitive knowledge there. I think I get to tap into like kind of this collective unconscious I feel when I allow myself to feel my emotions at their like core level. And so I want to be safe in that. I want to feel like that's okay. I want to be able to go there. So I kind of love this idea of a film rep company where you take people along with you. And a lot of people do that. Like Wes Anderson does that. Even I would say Greta Gerwig does that to a degree. Quentin Tarantino. I mean, there are lots of, and I know I'm kind of like naming the the big ones, but there are lots of people who do that, and I think that's cool. And I think for people like us, there's no shame in that. And in fact, like, let's lean into that. I was like, let's mine that for all it's worth. There's a lot in there for us.
I love that you brought that up because we feel the same way about collaborators. Like,
Yeah.
and the more we've kind of met people that we feel like we're all creating stuff for the same audience.
Mm-hmm.
We feel like the same audience would resonate with. There is this correlation between all these things that we're doing, and they have this shared thing. And marketing is so hard. Like, it's so, especially I feel like now you post on Facebook, or you post on Instagram, you post on TikTok. Like, we can get into why we both love Substack, I think, eventually, because it's been better than that. But if you can market something it's like the difference of A24 being like, we're releasing another film, or Lucky Chap, we're releasing something else. And they already have this like, well, I know I'm going to like something Lucky Chap does because I love everything Lucky Chap does. And there's this through line versus like, let me try to market this one-off project and
Right.
dump all my time in it. And like, is there a way to string this together? Like, what is that? So if you have people that you're all invested in each other's work to a degree, and there is this similarity, I love the idea of a film repertory company. Like, I think
Yeah.
it's brilliant.
Yeah. And I don't think like I think people do it naturally. But I do think, like, to your point, like, I'm in this stage of life or understanding, or I don't know. I don't know where I am. I'm in Providence, but I don't know where I am. But where I think naming things is very, very important. And I think it's something that sounds so dumb coming out of my mouth. Like, yeah, Court, like call things their names. But I guess I'm saying that because as people who kind of like drift in and out of these structures, and we may or may not be a part of the industry in the system. We may be trying to get in sometimes, and then sometimes we're totally going against it, and we're just like, keep me out of this. And we kind of feel like we're like pathless, and we're just kind of like, what am I doing? I think having the language to say, this is what I'm doing, a film repertory company, is like actually kind of structurally helpful to the filmmaker to say,
Yeah.
to just call things what they are for you. And maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that's just me. I should say, for me personally, if I can't name what the thing is, like, my brain kind of just like, it could be that, it could be that, it could be that. What am I doing? It's like too many questions. But as soon as I give it a name, I feel it like my idea or my energy is contained and I can drive it forward. It's like saying, I just want to be a filmmaker. Okay, yeah, sure. There are 800,000 ways to do that. But it's a different thing to say, I'm going to make this particular film this particular month. It's a different thing, right? It's like, I'm a filmmaker versus I'm making this particular film is a way to be a filmmaker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
feel like I'm being super clear, but
No, that makes sense. And because it feels like this kind of airy fairy thing of like, oh, we should all just kind of like help each other versus like, no, we're actually making a film repertory company. And maybe here's the parameters, or here's our ethos, or here's our guidelines, or here's our, and I don't know if you think of this in mind too, but I'm like, producing is hard. It's really hard. Let's just be honest. Producing is so hard. I came to the realization this year that I produced something I was not really creatively involved in. Like, I was just the person who was like, here's how we put all the pieces together, budget, fundraise, logistics. And I realized that's not for me. If I am not creatively involved in something, I don't want to produce. But we've also talked about this idea of like, there are certain collaborators in my life that it's like, hey, I'll help you produce this because I know you're going to come back and you're going to help me do the stuff I don't want to do on my creative. If there's this like shared responsibility of like, we all can wear different hats, or maybe we wear a similar hat each time, but then you get more done because you're not the only person trying to get everything off the ground all the time. There's this like synergy.
yeah, there's trust. And I think, like, yeah, I also find there's synergy there. Yes, there's trust. Yes. Also, again, for me, it's like, I'm going to make this feature film this year, and I wrote it with someone in mind who had been in my both previous projects, the film and the series. And when I started thinking more through like the producer side of my brain, I was like, Court, you're in a new city. You're trying to do a feature, which you haven't done before. I mean, I've done something close to it, but not exactly, right? As far as length goes. And how can you make it easier on yourself? like, and I was like, I can write for people that I know, who I trust, who I feel we're working towards similar things. We have similar goals and also similar kind of aesthetic or narrative
Mm,
interests, right? And
yeah.
I'm not gonna make it too. I'm not gonna go casting. I'm not gonna go do this. I'm gonna just like work in this small space and see what I can do, containing myself. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, I think there are lots of ways to collectively work with other people where you're not necessarily, like, Michaela, to your point, signing up for a job that you don't want to do. Like, I don't think it has to be necessarily that. Like, I actually really think that the strongest thing that filmmakers can do right now is be like unapologetically visionary about their project,
Yeah. Yeah.
unapologetically determined and overly confident, like absolutely bullish about their idea. Not to say you don't get feedback and all that. Let's just bake that in and say, yes, you're working at a high level of creativity where you're able to get feedback. You're able to, you know, inculcate other people's experiences and then like produce better work. But like that vision is super important. And I think that the way that we work together in this kind of new, weird, strange world that we've already entered between free speech and AI streaming platforms and the collapse of healthcare and infrastructure, all of these things, right? Is to work like we're a union instead of working like we're competing with each other.
Mm,
So, like your
yeah.
film company and my film company, we can make our own things. Like, actually, we should. We should have diversity of thought. We should have diversity of vision. We should have diversity of voices. We should have as many of those as powerful as we can. We should saturate the market. We should like get out there and do it. And also, we can support each other without me having to produce yours or you having to produce mine. Like,
Yeah.
it can be a
Yeah.
different kind of collaboration and a different kind of collective. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. As you envision and like, so where I sometimes get a little hung up in my exes. I was just listening again to your podcast yesterday with Josh and Mike, and I'm like, I definitely am Mike a lot of the time of like, I
Yes.
get caught up in existential, like, but in 10 years, this is what the world's going to look like. So what's the point in anything, sort of? And it was, and we were at Series Fest, Kat and I, and someone from YouTube came and sat down at our table and they were like, we want to know how to like help you guys. Like, why is YouTube not your go-to platform? And essentially I was like, well, the money for us to produce a SAG project or UBCP ACTRA if you're in Canada, the math doesn't math when it comes to what we need financially and what anyone's numbers look like with YouTube. So I don't know how we fix that. I don't know so anyway, kind of what I'm getting at is you look at numbers from Film Hub, you look at numbers from Tubi, you look at numbers from all these places because now we've lost DVD sales. And I've seen some people now do some interesting things with QR codes and like the whole festival system. How do we create sustainability or do you ever like, you're smiling. So I want to hear what you're thinking. What's
Because
bubbling?
in my mind, I'm thinking, why does Michaela think I know how to make film sustainable?
No, no, this.
No, I know. We're on a podcast. These are the questions to ask. I'm laughing at myself, really. Sorry, what was the question though? You were asking a real question. I was being a dirt.
Just the question is, what ideas maybe, or like, how do we create sustainability in this? It's like, do we need to create our own platform? Like, I don't know. Is it like we work together to create screenings? Like, my brain's going down all these rabbit holes of like, I love this idea. The challenge a lot of the time does come back to finances, or is it exchange of time, or like what? But then as like a mom, I mean, even as anyone living in these times with rent, like, how do we, and maybe we don't have the answer, and that's part of the discovery of this is we're trying to figure out what can that look like, or what
Mhm.
avenues have we not explored.
Okay, so I literally just put my sleeves up. Look at that. That's so silly of me. Okay, so how do I want to? So this is where I think like the non-D film movement and labeling something as such is really important. So let me just preface this. I'm sure no one has heard of non-D film movement unless you're like deep into the Substack algorithm like I am. Like, unless you're in there, you've no idea what I'm talking about right now. So NonDe is a term coined by Ted Hope executive producer of many, many things, worked at Amazon as like opened up the features department at Amazon, did all this stuff, like has a resume. And he was looking at how things were going, and he was calling it like the so-called independent film industry, right? Where he was looking at independent films and seeing that like that independence that we loved in Sundance 93 no longer exists because independent films are actually just absorbed by studio system, and or you don't get anywhere. Like I think in 2025, the grand jury prize winners at Sundance for narrative and documentary, as of this recording, I think, hadn't gotten distribution yet. Now, that's not to say that they won't get distribution, but if you win that prize at Sundance, you think, I'm going to be in a bidding war, right? Like that's the fantasy, that's the dream. And that can happen sometimes. I'm not saying it doesn't, and I'm not saying that these films aren't worthy of that. I'm just saying the market, the distribution market, is not playing. Is not playing with filmmakers, right? So Ted was looking at this and he said, we don't need an independent film system. We need a non-dependent film system. That's where NonDe comes from. Instead of indie, it's NonDe. So NonDe, non-dependent, meaning you make your thing and can support yourself with that thing, right? That's the dream. And I think that's a dream for a lot of people, even people who have money and access and power and all this stuff, because if they do have access to money or access to financing, sometimes that comes with strings attached. And sometimes people just want to make unapologetic, strong visionary work. And I personally believe that's what this moment is calling for us to do in this culture that we live in, you know, is to not like go retreat in ourselves, but actually like get louder, get more bullish. So the NonDe film movement is this idea that we take the institutional knowledge that each of us kind of has individually in our little pockets. Like I have a ton of marketing institutional knowledge because that's what I've done for my day job for a decade and a half, you know? So that's what I can bring to the table. Someone else can bring the production aspect. Someone else can bring the distribution aspect. Someone else can bring the, you know, maybe they worked in development at Netflix or something. And so they have that kind of like way to bring institutional knowledge together. And then in that movement, we share that information because when you learn, this is how a writer's room works. Having never been in a writer's room, you can do two things with that. You can try to get a job in a writer's room. Fine. Totally. Nothing wrong with that. Or you can say, how would that work for me? How would that work if I created a writer's room for my production studio? How would that work if I made a NonDe writer's room? You have these templates, you have these blueprints, you have examples. So that's why institutional knowledge and sharing of institutional knowledge is so important. Secondly, I think what we can do as far as sustainability goes is play the infinite game. Meaning, instead of saying this film has to win, it has to win at the festivals, it has to win in ticket sales, it has to win in fulfilling this empty part of me that me personally is trying to fulfill myself by making this film. And I'm saying that as me. Like, I'm always trying to fulfill that empty part of me with a movie, right? Okay.
Or a concert ticket. For me.
Like, of course, it's fine. It's fine. We're human. We do this. It's cool. Instead of asking one movie to do that, we say, like, let's play the long game here. Let's create an audience that wants to see us over time grow. Let's create an audience that is interested in the kinds of things we're interested in. Let's create an audience that stays with us, that grows with us, that's part of the work with us. You know, like let's get feedback. Let's do audience testing of our films with our audience. Let's get feedback from our audience. You know, there's so many ways to create that community over time. And I say this about, you know, a long time in a body of work because I think anyone that is going to tell you use this platform or use this, I mean, I love Substack, but like Substack's going to suck at some point. Like it just is because that's how these things go. Like it's going to like
the end-shitification of everything as I keep reading.
Yes, correct. And okay, all right, fine. That's a fact. We're over it. Now, what do we do with that, right? And I think making those connections directly to people, calling people into a movement, being part of a movement. I just put out this, I don't know if you read my latest thing that I put out on Substack, but I was like, let's do 50 NonDe films in 2026.
Yes, I did. Okay, I did read this.
Let's do it. Because like, 50 films, that's something, that's a number, And what does that mean? Like, okay, so for me, that means we get this list of 50 filmmakers or 50 films who are saying, like, I'm making a NonDe film this year, meaning I'm doing it outside of the system. I am bootstrapping this. I am working my butt off, and I'm putting it, not only am I trying to get it out myself to my audience, but I am trying to build the movement so that audiences everywhere can start knowing the term, knowing who's behind the movement, who's with the movement. I mean, I look at it as a political thing, right? It is a political
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It's a political thing, and not just to benefit the artists, but to benefit the audiences. Because
Yeah.
yes, it is a people powered thing. It is a people centered thing. And to say I'm going to make a NonDe movement, or I'm going to make a NonDe film this year, is saying I want to give audiences something that, like, I hope they'll really like and they'll really dig into. And I want to build a world for them that is not like scrolling. Listen, I love a scroll. When I'm in a bad mood, when I'm sad, give me my phone and my thumbs, okay? Like, I'm fine with that. But, like, so I'm not like, no shade, truly. Like, I'm totally there. But also, there's a rich part of life that we're missing. And if artists aren't going to be the ones to, like, bring it back, like, what do you think? You think the political leaders are going to? You think
No.
like, you think corporations? Do you think that, like, Zuckerberg or the Ellisons or, like, the even Substack, do you think that they're here to enrich our everyday life?
Well, it's like yesterday that came out. It was like more articles are being released written by AI now than humans. We've
Yeah.
already gotten there in what, 2 years?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also I've heard things like it's a bubble, right? It's a bubble, meaning
That's going to burst. And
yeah, like there's been so much investment in AI that it's either going to be this incredibly powerful tool and the rich people are going to get richer off of it, or it's going to be this incredibly, like, dud. It's going to be a dud. It's going to do nothing, and then the stock market's going to crash, and then everyday people are going to get screwed, right? Like, if those are two choices, right? And I don't say that to be alarming. It's just something that I've heard. Like, it could also not be true. Like, whatever. Like, don't quote me here, or do. But either way, either way we have some bad options, right? Like, we don't have great options here. Who's going to make those options for us? We have to do it. It has to be us. There's no one else to do it, right? So I think, like, that, and again, not to be like fluffy and like sweet and cozy about it, but part of why I personally love filmmaking is because it literally offers a different vision of the world. I can literally put a picture, some moving pictures and some words and a bit of music, as much as I can afford, in front of your eyes, and you can imagine something else. Like, and I'm not saying, like, make, daffodils and rainbows, like, make a horror film, whatever, make, you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that there's a certain kind of film to make, but there's a certain, what's the word I want? There's a certain impetus, or there's a certain drive or energy behind these kinds of films that I know people want.
Well, and I've seen articles of like Gen Z and Gen Alpha are like, no, bring back dumb phones. I want to go to a roller skating rink. Bring back nostalgia.
Yeah. 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 I was at the playground the other day with my kids, and my husband was with my son, and I was with my daughter, who's almost 7, and she was on the monkey bars, and there were these other girls that were like her age and maybe a little older, and they got in this fight. Not my daughter. We were just there. But the one girl says to the other girl, like, you're an iPad kid. And the other girl goes, nuh-uh, you're always on your phone. You're always on your phone. You're an iPhone kid. And I was like, if you can't see me, if you're listening to this podcast, my jaws dropped on the floor, because I was like, damn, yeah,
what a new diss.
Like, that's awesome. Like, stop fighting and, like, be kind to each other, but also, like, slay. That's awesome. Like, again, that's anecdotal, but I've also seen studies that talk about Gen Alpha being like, screens are so lame. So anyway, all that at the same time, the generative AI is coming out. Sam Altman's coming out with that platform where it's just like fake TikTok, AI TikTok, whatever. So there's lots of stuff at play. I'm not saying that movies and artists like us are going to fix that. I'm not saying we're going to come in and, like, save the planet. I'm not saying that, right? But I do think that when people are working individually and together, aligned to do good in the world or to, at least like bring forth the potential, like life can be good, like it can
Yeah.
be. We
Yeah.
can have a good time while we're here. I'll say, and I'll try not to cry. I just lost my dad. And
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
thank you. And I was really lucky to be with him at that transition. And there's something so clarifying for that to me in lots of ways, in deeply personal ways, right? But also when I think about my art, I just think like, Court, what are you trying to do? Like what are you trying to do? Just go do it. What else is there? What else
Yeah.
is there except to try? You know? And that's actually the thing that I think is most interesting about this NonDe film movement. Is like, yeah, what if we fail? Okay. There's a good chance. There's a good chance. It dries up, people get distracted, or people can't afford their health care and their premiums double. And
Yeah.
so they can't spend time on this. And also, there's something worth trying. And I'm invested. I am deeply invested, personally, politically, professionally, in trying. Like, let's try. So, sustainability, I can't answer that question. But I think the question's worth asking. I think it's worth trying. I think it's worth aligning with other people who are also trying. And I
Yeah.
don't think one person has the answer. I don't think one corporation, I don't think one film. I
Yeah.
don't think the answer comes from one place. I think it comes from a lot of places. And the more we can support each other and our own work, being like little tiny touch points, little tiny lights, eventually I have to believe that a bigger light will break through. Will we be alive for it? Who knows? But let's try. Why not?
Yeah.
Could be
Why
fun.
not?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I can ask anything else after that because that was
Sorry.
so inspiring. No, it was so inspiring. It's like you've just put into perspective. It's like we can either sit here and complain about everything crumbling but I do look at, everyone's talking about verticals and the rise of the vertical, but the thing that actually is so positive about it is that people want stories with happy endings.
Yes.
And of course, life isn't always happy. There is this, I think it ties well into this, how we can maybe take, like, what can we learn from why people want to scroll and watch these and what is it? And yes, there's some arguments and maybe there are some things that aren't but there are positives in it that I think we can incorporate into like what you're saying. And I almost think of like when the more you talk about this, I almost think of Hollywood in like the early 19. It almost felt like movie theaters kind of were born out of that in a way of what almost did feel, because there really wasn't a studio system yet at that
Right.
time, and that didn't
Right.
really form till later, and women couldn't take out loans and like all that side of things. But
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I do almost feel like we're cycling back to this time that was this new frontier independent, but like with all of this learned knowledge and how things were and healthcare.
I know.
That is what Europe and Canada will have on the US through all of this, is that, at least for now, like healthcare is a basic right in most other countries, which is really unfortunate. But if it is this non-dependent system, which a lot of people have argued, like, oh, films are going over to the UK and they're going up to Canada because they don't want to have to pay into healthcare for America because it's so expensive. It's like eventually there's just going to be a breaking point that things have to change. They cannot keep going the way they are. And there is a way, if we try, to be a part of that changing and that having to change.
Yeah. And I think it's too much to ask one filmmaker and one
Yeah.
movie to do that. Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's why I think we need a collective. Yeah. It's laughable.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, who was going to do it? Like Paul Thomas Anderson? Like, oh, he's going to fix things? No offense. Like, I'm sure you could, but no, you can't, because no one person can. And just to say, I meant to say this earlier and I got sidetracked. Imagine that. Like, I think you should have a day job. Like, I think everyone should have a day job. I think everyone should have a
Ooh.
day job. I think, honestly, like, do some stuff, like, do some work, like, get that stuff in order. Not because I don't believe that film can make money. I really do. I think it's a lot about marketing and distribution. I think it's about like getting people to understand why they want to press play and then making it really easy for them to press play. I think like we got to work on those things. But in the meantime, get a day job, get yourself resourced as however you need to get yourself resourced, and like protect yourself. Truly, get your personal home infrastructure stuff in order. I say that not because I think like no one needs to take advice from me. People are doing their best and they're doing that already. But I'm saying it out loud because I think it's a winning strategy. I think it's a winning strategy to have something outside of your work so that you can pour in that creativity and that like it doesn't have to be so desperate, like financially desperate.
Yeah.
You're not asking everything to be everything. Don't ask everything to be everything. Don't ask one film to be everything. Don't ask one festival submission to be everything. Like diversify it, protect yourself, get your day job, get your healthcare as much as you can lined up. Like do the things that you have to do to be a person who can show up. I mean, it's the same thing that they say in like any kind of activist space, right? Like I'm not well versed in activism. I mean, like, I go to political rallies and stuff like that, but I'm not like a leader or in that organized anything in that. But what I've read is that like part of being an activist is like taking good care so that you can show up really forcefully. And I think that the more that artists in particular, because we are all sensitive little baby birds,
We're
the more,
activists. We are.
yes,
Like, I don't know if we know we took on that role, but we do.
yes. And because we're so sensitive, it is easy to get it twisted and think that how we make our money is somehow determinate of how worthy our voice is. It's like those two things could not be less related. And this is all very not like there's no correlation. Like money is one thing that's happening in the world and we all have to navigate it. So like my thing is just like do your best to get paid outside of your film and then work your butt off to make the most incredible film you have ever made and connect it to your audience. And then over time, then that's when you can focus on a body of work instead of asking one film to pay off. Because you're like, all right, that one didn't hit, but like I've got my core audience now. Let's move them to the next one. Okay, we're building that audience out now. Now I'm doing this collaboration. I'm sharing this audience with this person. All right, now we move to the next one. And that to me is sustainable. I can do that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's very Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilbert. I'm sure you've read that.
Yeah.
Of just like, don't expect your art to be everything. Take care of yourself. And then your art gets to be like a beautiful extension of everything or your voice and what you want to share.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that you said that because I also, if you're like, I'm getting bored of myself at the beginning of the podcast. I'm like, I feel like you're literally describing my life's journey. Like I was just like a little bit behind you in my discovery, but yes, like.
Well, I'm probably a little bit older, so,
I did not have Backstage as a newsletter, but
Yeah.
I do remember when Backstage wasn't a
newspaper.
scam.
A newspaper. Like that's like how old. Okay. Anyway. Yes.
No, I love it. I love it. Because I heard those were the good old days. Like those were like the.
And then you know what happened?
Ooh, tell me.
2008.
Okay, I was going to go later than that, but yeah, 2008.
No, baby. 2008. 2008. You know what happened? We were trying to get jobs in New York City, and every single season changed its season from 2009 and 2010 forward to 4-person shows, and everyone was laid off of Broadway. Like non-equity actor, no one had a shot. Like there was no work. So for me, like this has been my career. Like getting into the career was like there's going to be no work. All right.
Yeah.
So what do?
So you have to make it.
Yeah, you make it, and you like you resource yourself however you have to, and you don't worry about it. You just do what you have to do, and then you play a long game because you know what? Like even though there was the 2008, there were some good years in there where work came back, and then of course crumbling of America. But like whatever, we'll come back. I hope.
Well,
Yeah.
voice cracks. We will.
Yeah. I'm just saying like things change over time and the idea is to stay in the game. Just stay in it.
Stay in it. And I'm so glad you said I was eventually getting to a point and then I got derailed too. But I feel like I was told in school or the pressure of school was if you are not making money doing the thing you're going to school for, you're a failure. And I just did this podcast called the Showbiz Podcast, which I recommend people listen to. And they talk about artists like day jobs or all the fun, creative like ways they're making money to support themselves so that they can do their art. And I'm so glad you said it, because I think it needs to be normalized that other than maybe a few people at the top, we're all like, art is a part of our day jobs as well. Like we have
Yes.
to have the thing, and then we do the art too.
First of all, Francis Ford Coppola had his winery.
Yes.
He had a day job.
Yes.
He had a day job. I mean, like, okay, I'm being
He
cute,
can probably
right?
have people run it for him too.
Right. Like, it's
But
not the same
yes.
thing. But like, didn't he sell that to do Megalopolis or whatever?
Or he
Like,
sold shares, or something like that. Yeah.
Like it's just, and also I would say, like, who do you know? I don't know a lot of people. Who do you know who has like a great wage for whatever work they're in, artist or otherwise? Like, who do you know that's like getting paid? Like, I know some people, but they're older than me, and they're like 20 years older than me, and like that's just not a reality right now. Okay, all right, that's not the reality. So how can we work with that? And that's what artists do. They look at a whole bunch of clay that isn't anything, and they shape it into something. And that is very much what we have to do with life, right? Art and life, they're the same thing. Okay, this is our material. This is our material reality. We've got to change it as much as we can. And for the stuff that we can't change, we've got to shape it into something better. And
Yeah.
I believe that's what, artists should, that's what I think we're here to do.
I think that's where we should end, because I couldn't agree more. That's what we are here to do.
Yeah.
You're just an absolute gem. Like, anytime I listen to your podcast, anytime I read your Substack, words are gone at this point.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
You just think from a place that I think where some of us, Mike and I, can get a little stuck in the weeds of like, you're just such a visionary in a beautiful way. And I think it's a gift to have you communicate that. And I can't wait until we get to share this with people and start the NonDe film movement.
And thank you
Are you
so
and
much.
Ted heading?
No, you know what's amazing about Ted is every single time I'm working with him right now, currently, it probably will go to someone else at a different point on the Film Stack Daily Digest, which I suggest everyone. It's basically a roundup of like all these things that are happening on Film Stack. Again, if you're not like in the Substack world, you're like, what?
Yep.
But it's a great place to like. Everyone should subscribe to that. And working with him on that and some other things that I've talked to him about before. He's all about not being the leader, like very Bernie, not me, us energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that.
And so if you called him the head of the movement, I think he would be like, no. I assume that's what he would say. And I definitely am not. I am a singular voice, as are you, as is everyone who's listening. Everyone has a voice. Everyone has a different perspective to say, and everyone has a different lived experience that should be part of our understanding of what's happening. It's not just me articulating my experience as a mom, right? It's so much bigger than just one single person. And I think that should be an exciting thing for everyone.
Yeah.
It is for me.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks for being on.